Hey guys, this is week 13 of my weekly update and reviews. Got the same pretty much show for you. I think I have 5 or 6 titles to review. Let's hop into this. The first one is a jumbo release from Arrow Films. This is the Re-Animator box set. It was freaking awesome to see Arrow Films tackle this one. I think everybody loves Re-Animator for the most part. You know, it's a cult classic. It's one of the best dark horror comedy movies ever made. And this bad boy is loaded. If you guys aren't familiar with the story of Re-Animator, it's based off an H.P. Lovecraft story. It was kind of published in 6 parts, and it's a little different from the movie. It's less goofy, probably his most straightforward and gory and nasty story, but still not much like the Re-Animator. It is, but it isn't. The Stuart Gordon movie is definitely more highly sexualized version and more splatter and comedic. But what happens here is this character, Herbert West, moves into this Miskatonic Institute, and he has these weird experiments where he has a serum that continues brain activity after they have passed. It's not necessarily a good thing, and it doesn't really particularly work very well. The subjects are jerky and crazy and insane. He kind of enlists the help of a promising student who's dating the dean's daughter, Dan Kane. And the two embark on this crazy journey. Of course, the dean himself, Alan Halsey, gets involved, and a weird, menacing Dr. Carl Hill. And, of course, Megan, who is Dan's girlfriend. It ends in tragedy. It's gory. It's ridiculous. It has some really great sight gags. It's low budget, but you really can't tell the budget because the way it's edited, they do a great job on it. They did the best they could with the effects, and it just... it pushes all the boundaries and all the limits, was released unrated. It's just a freaking masterpiece. What can I say about it? It launched the careers of Stuart Gordon and Jeffrey Combs, who became iconic. Barbara Crampton's also in it, and Robert Sampson, and David Gale, R.I.P., who would go on to be in Guyver, and was previously in the movie Savage Weekend. So it's got an all-star cast. Richard Band does a score, kind of a psycho light thing. It's really fun, like a playful Bernard Herrmann score. There's not much I can really say anything else that anybody hasn't said about Re-Animator, but it's just a gory, splattery movie that pushes boundaries with a really good cast, a really good script, well acted, like I said. Well written, and I will say some personal thoughts about the movie. You know, Jeffrey Combs is great in it. You can't even mention the movie without mentioning Herbert West. But what I will say is, I think that the underdog of the story, Barbara Crampton and David Gale are both amazing. I love David Gale in this movie. His performance is just one of those iconic, creepy bad guys. And the severed head, I don't want to give too much away, just in case you haven't seen it, but go see it for the love of God. But Robert Sampson, he plays Dean Halsey. He is just one of these really good kind of character actors that gets to play this really juicy role. He starts as this, you know, kind of like loving father figure, but stern. And what happens to him after one of the experiments gone wrong, he turns into this kind of monster, this Frankenstein monster-like character where he's controlled. But towards the end of the movie, he has this great arc, and you can see him emote all these things in his face, which is beautiful. I actually wrote a review for this one at the Screaming Toilet page in the link below. If you want to click on it, read it. For as far as the features, I'm going to read right off the back and kind of talk about them a bit because it's so much on here that I don't remember everything. But I watched everything, and it took 4 days. So if you're a Re-Animator fan and you got 4 days, then I would highly recommend checking out all the features. It has the integral cut in here, which is 23 extra minutes, which is great to see. It kind of cuts the brisk pace of the original Re-Animator because it's super. The Re-Animator is like 86 minutes, so it's awesome to watch it, and it's just gory and fun and straightforward. With laughs and cringing stuff and good drama. But the 23 minutes really adds some good character moments, some transitionary scenes and stuff like that, and some cool subplots with Dr. Hill digging deeper into how he can kind of hypnotize people, which is really cool. These scenes are also included separate. Also are 3 commentaries on here, which is crazy. The newest one being with the cast and crew from the musical, which is kind of cool to see their take on there. They sing a little bit in there. I myself have not seen the musical, but it was nice to see them talk about it. There's a making of, which I believe is an older one with interviews with all the big players who are still alive. They're fun. They have good memories of the film. There's also interviews with Richard Band, which I never saw, and even Tony from Fangoria, Tony Timpone, I believe it is, and tons of other stuff like I'm saying here. They talk about a couple interviews with Richard Band on here. And what else is on here? Trailers, of course, extended scene, just really cool stuff. It's actually amazing. You can even see script comparisons on here, and included is a comic book. Another cool thing is the limited edition's 2 discs. The second disc has an integral cut on there, so if you want that, buy now. And it also includes this featurette, the films of H.P. Lovecraft, which is nice to see because they kind of a refresher course. Most of the movies you've heard of, they start early, and it's nice to see how Stuart Gordon pretty much changed the Lovecraft genre for film. But it's really cool to see. There's even a couple nice ones in there that I forgot about or I didn't think were really Lovecraft movies. And I was like, oh, Dark Heritage. I've heard of it, have it, never watched it. So yeah, if you like the Re-Animator, I would highly recommend picking up this set. It looks great. It's loaded with features. It has a freaking comic book, has 3 commentaries, has a making of, has an intro, 2 cuts, all remastered in 4K. It sounds good. And it's nice to see this movie finally get the respect it deserves on Blu-ray.
Fortunately, the police accepted the explanation that Halsey went mad. Well, what else could they believe? The truth? That he died and came back? We did it, Dan.
The neck is broken.
Being around a dead person is not what you would imagine. It's very strange. You get no vibe, you get no rhythm, you get nothing.
I remember thinking that here's a guy who might be following in the footsteps of Vincent Price.
All that's left is on the screen is a green vial, the reanimation fluid, and you hear a loud scream, and boom, that's where the end title takes off.
My first play was Run, Robber, Run.
We also did a lot of shows where the costumes were leotards, and one of the members of another company kept referring to us as the Granola Theater Company.
It was the most wonderful theatrical experience I'd ever been a part of. It was great.
He had slowly tried to perfect a solution which, injected into the veins of the newly deceased, would restore life.
It's really faithful to the original story. The only real difference is that the protagonist is a man.
I've broken the 6 to 12 minute barrier. I've conquered brain death.
You'll never get credit for my discovery. Who's going to believe a talking head get a job in a sideshow?
It will scare you to pieces. I will reveal to an astonished world my new serum.
I have a plan.
So do I.
The next one here is from AFCA. Yeah, AFCA, it kind of came out of nowhere, and it seems like they have a bunch of stuff they're going to be releasing. This one is Zodiac Killer. It also comes with another Son of Sam. The Zodiac Killer, yeah, I had actually heard of this movie before. I think it was something weird release, and I'm interested in serial killers and whatnot, but this movie, the story is much better than the actual movie. The making of the movie is the more interesting part here, and that's why it's cool, because it includes an interview with the director and a commentary with the director and the guys from AFCA talking to him and about whatnot. Essentially, everybody knows the story of the Zodiac Killer. The Zodiac was a killer in the late 60s, early 70s that went unsolved. He got away with what he did. And this movie basically is there and made to find the real Zodiac Killer. They wanted to put it in theaters and spy and see if the guy would come in, because anybody knows the Zodiac Killer was very egotistical. He wrote letters to police, if it was even him. The case is really confusing. So what they did was they were hoping that he would come in the theater and they could catch him. The movie itself is dated, of course, really cheesy, but it has some really great moments. There's a couple suspects they kind of point to. They want to, and they follow the real story as much as they can. They do take some big liberties, especially when they kind of coast off into comedy or coast off into these weird side plots where they're just speculation of the killer, or they're just added kills, or they're very bizarre stuff here. But there's a character in here that's this kind of misogynistic, abusive husband, ex-husband, and he's just an asshole. But he's such a good asshole. He seems like a legit human being that you would meet. There's a moment in a restaurant. The other suspects in there as well, they know each other. And he's kind of off to the side. And he's like, "What's the special?" And the waitress says, "Delicious rabbit stew." Not knowing that the other guy to the right is obsessed, loves rabbits. And he says, "Rabbit stew? No." And then the guy on the right says, "Nobody should eat rabbits." And then the waitress says, "Everybody loves rabbit stew." And he says, "I don't really give a shit about any of this. Just bring me a ham sandwich." And his delivery, "I don't really give a shit about this," is so real that you can tell this guy has said this to multiple people. It just fits well. As for the other character who's like the mailman, he's kind of a civil servant, and they're kind of pointing that he's the killer. So it's really kind of going in and out of these characters in this weird, misogynistic, bizarre movie with, some outdated slurs here and there. But it is 1970 after all, so you can expect that. The violence in here is not really gratuitous or anything. I think, the movie's probably PG. But it's a very interesting take, and to hear the director talk about it and have those close encounters with actually possibly catching the guy is really cool as well. So it's one of those deals that the making of and the story about the movie is better than the movie, but the disc kind of has it all in there. All in all, the movie is kind of solid and entertaining, even though it's kind of just bizarre and weird and out there. Definitely a movie that's not made by a lot of, somebody who wasn't making movies all the time. So that's a Zodiac Killer. The other movie on here, my God, is called Another Son of Sam. And in the opening of this one, they kind of post in and they say, "Thank you for everyone who contributed to the victims, of the family's victims, to giving us information." So I'm like, all right, maybe this is going to be, a little bit legit. And then it just boom, and it pops up and starts naming all these killers. It's like Jack the Ripper killed 17 prostitutes. It's like, he didn't kill 17 prostitutes. I don't know if the information back then was different, but it's just like, it tells you, like, this is gonna kind of be serious, and maybe we're gonna take this seriously, and then boom, right, the first thing they do is a bold-faced lie. So I was like, geez Louise. And this one, man, Another Son of Sam. I think that this movie will only appeal to people that like bad movies, really bad movies, because there's a lot of point of view camera work. It's very inept. It's very weird. The acting's strange. At times it will freeze frame and the dialogue will continue almost like the end of the reel was bad and they had sound. I'm not sure what is going on with this movie. It is pretty painful to get through, but I think with a crowd, it could crack some people up and enjoy it, which is not really my thing, to be honest. So I did not enjoy it. It was a chore to get through. It is in widescreen, which is funny because the other one is in full screen, probably how it was shot. Both the movies look good, especially for old kind of grindhouse movies and cheap movies, but Another Son of Sam actually looks better than Zodiac Killer, and it's a much worse movie. But just a super weird movie. It's about an escape killer who goes on this crazy rampage. But yeah, it does, I guess, have unintentional humor, while the Zodiac Killer kind of put in some dark humor and tried to make it, a semi-realistic serial killer. Another Son of Sam is just a sloppy mess with a lot of skiing and a lot of weird shit going on and camera angles. I cannot recommend watching Another Son of Sam unless you want some laughs.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Bob Keel here. Tonight, we have more news on the Zodiac Killer.
Hey, fellas, hold it down. I want to hear this.
He writes another letter to the papers. And I quote, "This is the Zodiac speaking. I am the murderer of the taxi driver over on Washington and Maple Street. They could have caught me last night if they had searched the park properly instead of holding road races with their squad cars."
I'm the Zodiac!
I'm sick, you say. I should be put away, but I'm still loose, aren't I?
Safe
you all right? What do you say to the nice man? Say thank you.
I don't like him.
The next one here is from Africa Films as well. This is effects. You know, I had seen this on the old Synapse DVD, and I hadn't watched it since that was released in like 2005, 2004. But yeah, this is a movie made in Pittsburgh by some of George Romero's friends. Joe Pilato's involved. Pubba, he's involved with Dawn of the Dead. All these guys, almost everybody in here probably had a finger in Dawn of the Dead and Martin and that stuff, or worked with Romero at some point. But what we have here is an interesting concept. Now, it's not as good as the concept would suggest the film, but it's still a solid movie and different. Also, John Harrison stars in it, who does scores. He did scores for stuff like Day of the Dead, which is actually my favorite score from a Dead film, and probably my favorite score ever, to be honest. I love the kind of calypso like feeling to it. Really love it. But John Harrison's in it as well. What we have here is a movie about making movies, which are usually painful. I don't want to say that, but they are. But there's more going on here, more than meets the eye. We have this group of kind of weird actors and a weird director who's very cold and callous and taking all this crew out to this cabin, and they're supposed to stay there. And pretty soon we realize that something's going on. Is he making a snuff film? Are they filming them? It gets really weird and really bizarre. Tom Savini's in it. He plays an asshole, and he does it really well. And there's some really genuine creepy moments in here, and it starts to get into these weird layers. It's like I'm a movie watching a movie. I'm watching a movie where they're making a movie of that movie they're making. It's just kind of insane to think of it. But the ending is pretty downbeat, and I love the marquee. That's all I'll say. It's a very gritty looking movie. I believe it was shot in 16. It's a dark looking movie. It's kind of a gross looking movie, but it's really cool to watch a lot of these faces in here. It was kind of a lost movie, so when Synapse released it, was really cool. It looks better than the Synapse DVD. It's in widescreen. The score is really cool as well. It's got a weird kind of melodramatic touch, but I enjoy the hell out of the score. And the score kind of goes savage at one point, and kind of the ads does pew 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 from like Animal Holocaust. You hear that a couple times. Not overly graphic, but one of the scenes could be deemed pretty disturbing, probably tame or just slightly disturbing by today's standards, involving snuff. But I like the movie. I think it's interesting. I don't think it's great, but I think it's a great piece of cinema, kind of that patch between stuff, and I think it's interesting as hell. There's a commentary on here with the three main filmmakers, John Harrison, the director Dusty Nelson, and Pubba. I can never say his name, but he's, like I said, he was involved with Dawn of the Dead. I think he was even one of the bikers and worked behind the scenes and everything, or his brother was one of the bikers. But regardless, yeah, they do a commentary from 2004-5 release, and that's interesting to hear them talk about everything and the making of, and they seem to have good fun. There's a making of on here as well. George Romero's interviewed in that about the movie, although he wasn't involved, but he was involved when it screened and whatnot. That's interesting as well. See the camaraderie between the groups of people. Joe Pilato's in it. They're all joking around. They're all they're all laughing and everything. That's really nice to see. Michael Felcher actually directed that one. It actually has a commentary for that too, which I didn't get a chance to check out. But there's 2 short films on here as well. Really bizarre movies. And I will say about effects is it takes place in the wilderness, and the Pittsburgh wilderness, or the Pennsylvania wilderness, they'll say. I'm not necessarily sure if it was outside of Pittsburgh, probably a little bit. But it just looks great. It takes place during the fall. And one of the short films on here, Besties or Beastie, I believe it's called. I can't recall. By it's not by John Harrison, by Dusty Nelson. Looks great too because the foliage and everything. So 16 millimeter Pittsburgh or Pennsylvania foliage looks great. The Blu-ray looks solid. Kind of a bizarre cover. I kind of like what Africa's doing here, but there's also a trailer reel on the Zodiac Killer. I forgot about to say that. But yeah, FX is definitely worth watching as a curiosity for sure.
Okay, let's see a movie.
Nobody is going to believe a spurt of blood.
They'll believe anything we show them. She's pretty good with that razor, huh? You gotta put her in the movie.
Well, I still don't know what to do when he comes in.
No, you're fine. You're stoned. You're confused. Besides, everything's happening too fast for you to even be scared.
It's trash. Killing somebody on film? It's sick.
No. This isn't what I thought it was.
Tell me, Dom, do you think people would pay to see something like that?
Sure, people pay to see anything.
next one, actually, I don't have a copy of. I watched it on Amazon streaming, and it is Endgame by Joe D'Amato. And this one has Al Cliver and George Eastman and Bobby Rhodes, among others. Yeah. Wow. This movie is crazy. This is a post-apocalyptic game of death movie. It has mutants in it. It has all sorts of stuff. Psychics. It has all Nazi villains. It's just a smorgasbord of weird and entertaining crap. The picture quality looks terrible on Amazon. I wish this would get a Blu-ray release. I never saw it, but I'd heard about it, and I was interested in checking it out. I saw it there on Amazon Prime, and I was like, I'm going to watch it. And although the picture quality is terrible, I was vastly entertained throughout. Al Cliver's in this game of death with George Eastman and Bobby Rhodes and some others, a la Running Man, made way before Running Man. He picks a couple of them off, but George Eastman and him have this kind of fight deal where the game has to finish until one of them's dead. They have this kind of weird camaraderie where they hate each other, but they come from the same town. They want to kill each other. It's really cool. But the psychic wants to hire Al Cliver and a group of guys to drive her across to the desert so she can, and her and her mutant psychic friends who are persecuted can kind of find a home and find a life. Al Cliver then turns this into a man on a mission movie where he gets all these kind of experts and shooting stars and strong guys and other people to drive the cars, and he brings them all on this mission and drives these psychics across country. But they run into this group of animaloid weird mutant things, and they start fighting, and more action-packed, batshit crazy, ridiculous, super fun. It feels like a video game. They run into these blind monks that are looking through a psychic. It's just a really cool movie, and if you can shut your brain off, you will enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. Mean-spirited because it's Italian, but they're not afraid to kill people. The way this ends is priceless. I love it. The next one I also don't have a copy of. I watched Bridge to Hell by Umberto Lenzi on Amazon streaming. Quality, again, looked like crap. This is a war movie made in 1986, believe it or not. I didn't really recognize many of the faces. I recognize faces, but I don't know their names. This one is kind of a slug, but it's not horrible. It follows a Austrian, German, American, and an Italian who escaped from a Nazi war camp. And they're basically on their way to make it, the war's kind of over for them. They run into these other factions fighting the Nazis, and they team up. They end up blowing up a bridge, flying planes, dropping bombs manually, and doing all sorts of stuff until they get all Kelly's heroes on it, and they hear about this gold in the convent, and they want to steal it. The lady they're with used to be a nun. She doesn't want to do it, and that's pretty much the story of them trying to steal this gold, going through and having to do random missions and killing Nazis. It never feels dangerous for them. Even when some of them are getting hurt or possibly dying, you don't really care. There's some really bad dialogue in here where all the characters are just major stereotypes from their countries. Like the Americans like, oh, I could go for a good Coca-Cola now. And the dubbing doesn't help. But the movie is kind of entertaining. It never slows down. It's just stupid for the most part. But I would watch it again probably if it was released on Blu-ray or DVD and looked pretty crisp. It is big. They blow up bridges and stuff, so there's that going for it. Umberto Lenzi did so many cool movies like Almost Human and some horror movies you guys will be familiar with like Nightmare City and Spasmo and Cannibal Ferox, tons of stuff. So it's really cool. Bridge to Hell, it's really cool to see some of his other movies. I'm not sure if I saw any of his war movies. I know he did a couple more too. From Hell to Victory, is that Umberto Lenzi? But yeah, I think it's a curiosity again. I love Italian Italian films, so I wanted to check it out. Like Umberto Lenzi, I'm kind of soft on this movie. I don't hate it, but it's not great. And watch the trailer, you'll know if you're going to like it or not. I mean, it's not as good as something like Inglourious Bastards, or definitely not as good as Dirty Dozen or any Kelly's Heroes or anything like that. But it might, if you like Italian war movies, then check it out.
On your hand. I'll try to reach Blitz. Okay. Stop. Right on Gruber. Prepare. What's going on here? Where are those shots coming from?
From the Crevasse Bridge, Camayo.
Detonators, Basilio has them. Bam! What's the matter, Yankee? The detonator! Throw me the detonator!
For the shout out, let's do it. I'm gonna give a shout out to Rock Bottom Video. This is Nathan Rumler and Brian Kilby and Brian Papandrea and all those people that they actually did a movie called Gay for Prey: The Erotic Adventures of Jesus Christ. It's a comedy. I was involved with that, so I'm a little biased. They're good guys, but they released stuff like Beyond the Valley of Belief and Big F and Fang Boner. So the link for their store will be below. Check them out. If you like goofy, kind of crazy, weird stuff, it's funny, it's sleazy. Then check it out. They're good people, and I was in their recent movie coming up. So the more you buy, the more movies they'll make and whatnot. So support indie cinema if you like the stuff. So yeah, let's get into the old contest. This is for these three titles: Bird with a Crystal Plumage, Slugs, and Slimy Little Bastards. Let's jump right into this. I'm going to go with the big camera, or let's go with this one. For some reason, I know that my wide shot or my medium looks pretty crummy. I think the light's a little off on that. I'll apologize for that now. I'm trying to get the hang of this thing with the 2 cameras. I used to use a better camera. But who's going to win? Oh, jeez. Yeah, this is for the old one, duh. I was losing my mind for a second. Jonathan Gagne? Let's see, I'll put it over here. Gagne, Gagne. Hopefully I said your name right. Shoot me your information, and I will get it to you ASAP. For the new stuff, basically what you have to do is like the Screaming Toilet Facebook page, subscribe to my YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/Mrparka, Mrparka, and go over on the Screaming Toilet page where the Re-Animator written review is hosted at, and all this information, and leave a comment and it says you want to be entered, and you get a chance to win Night of the Demons 2 DVD, still sealed. The Monster Squad DVD Special Edition. I believe this is out of print now. I'll have re-released it on Blu-ray, but this is out of print, so if you want to check it out and get the all the special features and maybe the Olive Blu-ray, you can, that's pretty cool. And the Night of the Creeps DVD. I have all these upgraded on all these titles, so yeah, that's the package. All you got to do is do those things, and pretty easy. I guess let's get into the Q&A. Now, I only have a few questions here, but I'll go in really quick. I'm going to use this camera, so make sure I'll be looking down. Christopher Delier, what is your favorite film that is black and white? I love Eraserhead, Night of the Living Dead. Night of the Living Dead's probably my favorite, to be brutally honest. I love Eraserhead as well, but I love Night of the Living Dead. I can't really get over Night of the Living Dead. My favorite movie is Day of the Dead, but the Romero trilogy is kind of like the quintessential movies to me. But I mean, I love stuff like Creature from the Black Lagoon and Frankenstein as well. When I think black and white, Night of the Hunter, I haven't seen in a long time, but that's a great black and white one as well. There's a lot of good titles, but I'm gonna have to go with Night of the Living Dead. You can't really beat it. Paul Wadkill, do you prefer Argento or Fulci? I prefer Fulci. I probably know Argento's a better filmmaker, but I just really like Fulci. I have a soft spot for him. I like his superstition in his horror movies. There's just lots of stuff I love with Fulci. It's kind of hard for me to, if I even said I liked Argento better, I would feel bad. I mean, Zombie, I'll watch a million times. Beyond, I watch all the time and love it. City of the Living Dead, all that stuff. I mean, Don't Torture a Duckling. Fulci's just the man. And I know that Argento was versatile, but I don't think he's as versatile as Fulci. That's just how I feel. Tim Evans, I enjoy Don Dohler films, and my favorite, George Stover. George Stover's fun. Do you like those films, Galaxy Invaders, The Fiend, Alien Factor? What are some other low-budget films I might not know about? Thank you, buddy. I've seen Alien Factor, and I really like it. And I have saw another Don Dohler one I saw was Blood Massacre with George Stover. And if you haven't seen that one, you got to check out Blood Massacre. George Stover plays the lead in that. He plays the baddie, and he's really good in it. And there's this cool monster, without spoiling too much, but Blood Massacre's the one to go for. And I've also saw Night Beast by Don Dohler, which is really cool. But I've only seen the Alien Factor out of those three, and I enjoy it a lot. Independent filmmakers, I'm trying to think. I'm more up and up on the newer independent filmmakers. Not the newer ones from like the late 80s, early 90s. Don Dohler was more of a 70s guy. He did 80s too, I think. But let me think. If you haven't seen the J.R. Bookwalter stuff from earlier, I love that stuff, or the Eric Stancy stuff. But Bookwalter's low-budget stuff, I would recommend, The Dead Next Door, obviously, but the stuff he produced as well with Tempe, like The Skinned Alive and Bloodletting, and he did Robot Ninja. I love that kind of stuff. Polymorph, Sandman, Ozone. I would check out that kind of stuff. I would check out Eric Stanzy's stuff, Ice from the Sun, Savage Harvest. Now, a lot of these are shot on video, so it's kind of hard to find stuff like Don Dohler. But one that might you might like is by Massacre Video, called Mutilations, which is it was shot on 16, I believe, and edited on tape, so it looks like tape. But there's a DVD of it. It's not very expensive. It's called Mutilations, and that kind of reminds me of maybe a little bit gorier Don Dohler movie. Kind of somewhere like a Deadly Spawn, maybe. That's not a Don Dohler, but Deadly Spawn. But yeah, so check those out. Thank you again, guys. I'm going to do an update really quick. I got Soldier Blue. This is an import. I do not like this cover. I prefer the original poster art. It's amazing. But yeah, this one is just, I believe this, what country is this one from? I think it's a German release. And I got some stuff from the Arrow UK sale. I got the Tin Drum, which I think my friend Brandon was talking about. Spirits of the Dead. Audition. Takeshi Miike. I've never seen Audition. I know it's bad, right? And recommended by Extra the Mutilator, The City of the Dead. So that's the quick update. Again, thanks a lot for watching, guys. I much appreciated. Oh, if you do want to ask a question, make sure you ask it at the Screaming Toilet page below, and I will answer it in the next video.